Today's interview is with Anu Simh. She is a board certified functional health coach. We're going to be talking today about her coming to America at 17 years old from India. Very different culture, very driven culture, and coming to America and assimilating into this country, which was not easy and required a lot of resilience and required her to really be creative in the paths that she took, required her to detach herself from the outcome that she may have expected. She experienced a lot of twists and turns, a lot of people that didn't understand her well. She had to figure out how to live in the melting pot of America and also follow her heart and her dreams and raise a family. And it is a very relaxed and casual conversation, a lot about culture, letting go of attachment, enjoying the path, nourishing your body and your microbiome, and also just navigating cultural differences. It's a lovely convo. I hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, here is Anu. Well, hello, Anu. How are you?
Good. How are you, Tricia?
I am doing well. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited. I've been wanting to talk to you about just stuff. I mean, I'm just so used to being focused on one topic that this sounds like a fun kind of exploration, really getting to know you better. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I know you talk about the microbiome all day long, and you
Yeah.
feel like, and it is funny. As practitioners, we go to all these podcasts and we talk about the same thing. And
Yeah.
even though we're passionate about it and we love it and we so believe in it,
Yeah.
I think it almost becomes like this persona that
Yeah.
we put our hat on to
Yeah.
be. And so, what I love about this show as well is that we get to be real people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And yes, you help people with their microbiome, you help people with their weight, you help people with your energy, but you are so much more than that,
Yeah.
right? And so when I started looking at people who are successful, especially in the healing space, those of us that go into medicine or go into helping others, we usually of course have a story. Typically
Right.
something went wrong with our health or otherwise, but I also find that in order to grow our business, in order to help other people and serve the way we serve, we have to let go of a ton of patterns and a ton of things that we may have had as kids. And one of your skills, just in getting to know you, is that you have learned how to detach from the outcome. So you're a risk taker.
Yeah.
And so many people are afraid to take a risk.
Yes.
So many people. So I want to know, when you were little, when you were a kid, were you a risk taker innately, or were you raised in a totally different type environment and became a risk taker later?
I want to believe that I've always been that way, but growing up in a typical Indian family where you had to succeed, and you had to succeed when it came to academics. You really had to do well, be a topper in class. That's what people. I mean, like my parents felt like, oh, if I did well in school, it was like I got all the accolades, and so you start kind of defining who you are through the eyes of others, but be it your parents or family or friends. And I don't think I really went past that to see what is it that I really want to do. I mean, I know as a child, I loved to be an artist. I love painting. My father would say, well, that's not going to buy you anything. That's not going to give you a career. You've got to be science based. So I did it. I did all of the things I was supposed to do, but it didn't make me happy. No, I mean, I don't think working in a lab was my thing. It's like, but then moving to the States and being here and being in a country that you could kind of redefine yourself. I mean, this country gives you so many opportunities to do that other countries don't. You have a clear stop of when you can redefine yourself. And I don't think people get that. When people
Well,
complain about
yeah.
this country, and I want to say, no, you have no idea how many opportunities are available here. It's just to us, we just need to become more of the risk taker. We need to believe in ourselves. We need to be resilient. All of that is something life
Yeah,
teaches you, you know.
I'd love to know. Were you born in India then?
Yeah, I was born in India. Yeah.
So, and this is fascinating to me because I'm obviously American,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I was born into this culture. And as I do this show, I'm interviewing people that are born in other countries. And you're right. Right now, there's a lot of hate and a lot of anger and a lot of against this country, which breaks my heart.
Uh-huh.
I mean, nowhere's perfect, right?
Yeah,
But at the same time, we don't really have a comparison because we haven't lived in other places necessarily.
yeah.
So, what was it? You were saying there was a lot of pressure being in an Indian family, and it's more about being something that's going to bring you in an income and stability. It's not about being a dreamer and an artist and
Yeah,
things like that. Is that part of the innate culture? Can you tell me a little bit about
yeah.
what the traditional values are and what it's like to live in India or grow up in India?
Yeah, and this is a very complicated question, and there's so
Yeah.
many, it's very nuanced. I mean, if you really think about it, India was colonized for so long. So
Hmm.
we took in a lot of that, you know. I mean, like from the very beginning, we felt like we were not good enough. Because we'd been ruled by the Brits for so long. So that was kind of it just filtered through generations to my generation. You know, I think maybe today's Indians, you know, in India are finally breaking the shackles and saying, ah, we're enough. We're good enough. And you see Indians in different areas of, you know, it's not just the science or IT or something like that. We see artists and, you know, things like that. It's finally happening. But I didn't go through that. That wasn't the India I grew up in. I grew up in an India that was very much do the science, be really good at math, just do really well, and then success is yours. And
Do you have siblings?
yeah, yeah.
Did they all follow a similar type of path as you?
Yes,
Did
I
you have
mean,
any rebels? No.
well, I was the rebel. You know, I was the one who was like, you know, in fact, you know, you've talked about modeling. I
Mhm.
remember my dad said, no way are you going to do that. That's going to bring shame to our family. You're never going to do that. And I said, screw this, I'm going to do. So the first thing I do when I when I moved to the States is like, I was asked by someone, say, hey, you know, would you like to model? And I said, yes. Not because I really wanted to. I said, I'm going to show you, Daddy. I'm going to do this, you know. So that was my nature, you
What
know, just
what was his reaction?
he was like, I knew you would do it one day, you know. I mean, it's funny as he saw me kind of just becoming my own person.
Mhm.
He was on my team, you know. He started changing. That's amazing how that happens, you know. So I'm kind of glad that I went through that path and just changed as and evolved as a human being, because there's so many things that you learn. Like just this whole modeling thing taught me, well, I'm here, but someone else is viewing me very differently. They're looking at me. They want me in this show or whatever because I look ethnic or I'm exotic. That I had never framed myself as that. I mean, in India, you're Indian, right? You have an
Mhm.
accent and
Mhm.
you grow up. I mean, you don't think about all these things. And when you come here, you see yourself through the lens of others. You see, like, oh, she is this, or she is, you know, I mean, that was very interesting. And in a way, I think, Tricia, it really taught me to be more resilient. You know, I never took it amiss. I said, okay, this is going to teach me something. So,
Yeah, and it's hard. I was put into it so young. I
mhm.
mean, I was 9 months old my
Oh
first time
my
around.
gosh. Yeah.
So like I didn't know any different.
Mhm.
I was just sit in front of the camera, look pretty, we want you or we don't want you,
Yeah.
right? And so when you go from people that say, "Oh, you're so beautiful, you're going to do this," and then you have people that say, "Well, we don't want you, we want her because
Mhm.
she's Indian." You start to go, "Well, why am I not good
Yeah.
enough?" And you start to really start to take it to heart. And I think that's
Right.
why it takes so many people down. And it's why you see so many drugs and it's why you see so many eating disorders.
Yeah.
And it's why you see a lot of people give up on that career
Yeah.
because it really does take a lot of resilience and it really does take a lot of self worth.
Yeah.
And it requires you to let go of you. You have to be what other people want without being attached to be what other people want.
Yeah.
So that it's that attachment to that outcome or that attachment to what they view of you
Yeah.
that's destructive. The job is to show up, put on the pretty clothes, play the role, be what they want. But that doesn't mean you are what they want.
No.
right?
Yeah.
Or that comes back on you. And that's a really difficult concept. And when I look at it from the social media aspect right now, and I look at my kids and I look at young girls or even my boys who aren't on social media, thank heavens. So far, I've avoided that. I don't know how long that'll last, but that's
Yeah.
okay. I just look at all the pressure and the comparison from person to person, and
Oh,
it brings
that's
me back to that moment where I was comparing myself to people that looked completely different than me, or
yeah.
that to people that had a different body than me, or a different
Yeah.
look than me,
Yeah.
or a different age than me. I mean, I was 13 working with people who were 22, right? They put them in a swimsuit, they put me in a swimsuit. We're going to look quite different, right? And,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
and yet you feel like you're inferior, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. So, how old were you when you came to United States?
17.
Okay.
Yeah, 17, 18. Yeah.
Wow, that's fun. And you came
Yeah.
by yourself?
No, well, initially, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then of course I met my husband and,
yeah.
we both decided we wanted to be here and. But my daughter went through the same thing, I mean, she was so excited about ballet. And I mean, even when she was like 5 years old, she'd be dancing. It was always ballet, ballet, ballet. That was her passion. And then around when she was about 11 or 12, her body started changing. And that is what I want people to understand. It all depends on your genetics. It depends on your ethnicity. Our bodies are different and they're beautiful just the way they are. And I still remember the ballet instructor coming up to me and saying, well, I don't think your daughter's ever going to be like a prima ballerina. She's very talented, but she does not have the body type. She will need to lose about 20 pounds for her to even be considered. I was so appalled and shocked that I mean, this was a well-known company here in San Diego.
Well, and number one, did I mean how old was she? Like,
She was just entering puberty, her body was doing
is she like already decided she's gonna be a prima ballerina?
exactly.
For God's sake, she's just
Oh,
dancing. Let the poor
she's
child go.
she's just having fun and enjoying it, and she loved the music and Nutcracker and all of that stuff. And I said, "Thank you for being honest." And then I took her out. I said, "This is not for you, baby." And I explained to her that this was not where I wanted. I told her about being confident in who she is, and luckily for her, I think that following year she discovered Indian dance, and she transferred all of her knowledge and love for dance into that, and she was completely accepted, and that's what she kept doing. But I still felt like she was cheated out of something that could have been hers, I mean,
Well,
just
of course it could have. And to be honest, to be honest, you can always change your physical appearance in some way in the future. Why kill the dream
yeah,
now with the love? Because if she was dancing full time, she's going to thin down, even
yeah,
with it naturally, even with the different figure. And even in the modeling world, I've seen so much changes. I mean, it used to be when I was in it, you had to be over 5'10". You could not sign with my agent if you were not 5'10" or above. Now you have people who are
all
five
kind,
five
yeah,
making tons of money, doing tons of, print campaigns and stuff. I mean, I have people on the runway with me sometimes that are much smaller than I am. And it's changed, and it's sad. What hurt my heart when you said that was it was all about the weight. It had nothing to do with whether she could dance
no,
or not. It had nothing to do with whether she was passionate about it. It had to do with how she
yeah,
looked. And that's why I had to stop for a second. And I was like, wait a minute, that's wrong.
yeah,
Because every single person is so beautiful in so many different ways, you
yeah,
know? So, but it makes a great point how often we in our lives, someone says no and we just take it.
yeah,
Like to be honest, if that would have been me, I would have come back and said, "Thank you for your opinion. Do you want to take my money or not? Because my child
yeah,
wants to dance. So
yeah,
I'm either going to have her dance here, or I'm going to have her dance down the street. I don't really She's
yeah.
13. I don't really care whether she's going to become a prima ballerina. All I know is she loves to dance, and if you're going to act like that, she's certainly not going to dance
Yeah.
here." I mean, that's what
And
I would have said.
I'll tell you, Tricia, I mean, today I probably would have done that.
Yeah.
But back then I was a very young mom,
Yeah.
and I was learning along the way. And
Hmm.
I mean, I had gone through similar things,
Hmm.
just adjusting to a new country and people around you and stuff. So I don't think I'd really have the confidence to say that. I felt like, and it wasn't even confidence. It was like, I need to protect my baby. these are not the
Yeah.
kind of people I want my child to be
Yeah.
around. And I saw how other people were kind of, the parents were into it. The parents were like letting the children go on really restrictive diets when they should have really been feeding them properly and just nutrition and all of that. And I said, I don't want that much. I knew I didn't want my child to go through that. I mean, fighting it out and really, I wasn't, it was hard for me. I'm an
Yeah.
introvert, and even just having to deal with that was so hard. But yeah, I mean, I probably would have been very different how I handle that now, but
I know I'm scrappy. I would have just been like, "What? You're not talking to my kid that way." But you're right. Like
yeah.
I watch so many young girls waste away to nothing.
Yeah, I
I
don't
watch,
want that. Yeah.
and that's just not, it's not setting them up for health. And
Yeah.
I'm sure coming into this environment, young mom in a community, coming from another country, trying to
Yeah.
figure out where you fit in. Do you stand up to
Yeah.
someone or not? Or
Yeah.
do you
And it
submit?
was a largely Caucasian
Yeah.
community. And so I've gone through a lot, things. I mean, I'd really say that that's what makes me the person that I am today, because it's not just about switching careers or anything. It's parenting, it's dealing with people who are very different from you and learning from them, accepting that the difference, loving the difference, and also
Mhm.
challenging their opinions about another culture, or there's a lot of that, right? And
Yeah.
many of the, like, for example, well, I have an accent. People can tell that I'm from a different country, but my kids are completely American. They don't know any different. Like my son, for example, we call him a coconut because he's brown on the outside and completely white on the inside, because that's the only world. This is the only country he's known. And when people
Yeah.
come up to him and say, "Where are you from?" it freaking hurts him. It upsets him so much, and um, just,
How do you teach him to deal with that? Because my guess is the people that come up and ask for are genuinely just trying to start a conversation, even though it's hurtful. So how do you teach him to handle that?
he is very confident. And I said, "Dude, I'm American just like you." Or he might say, "Oh, where are you from?" I would say, "Oh, I'm American." "Well, I'm as American as you are," or something like that.
He gets a little snarky.
Yeah, he is. He doesn't care. So I've never had to teach him that. I've just taught him how to kind of stand up for himself. But then when this whole thing about 9/11, all of that happened,
Yeah.
that was hard for us.
Yeah.
I know my son, I don't know, maybe that was the beginning of it. He said, "Mom, I'm just going to get a big tattoo of a cross." He's not Christian. He's not, but he said, "I don't want to be mistaken for a Middle Eastern person," because there was a lot
Yep.
of that going on at that
Yep.
time.
There
And so
was.
he was really nervous. And I thought, my gosh, this is not okay.
Where were you at that time?
Say San Diego.
San Diego,
Yeah.
and you go from basically overnight
Yeah.
becoming like a target on
Yeah.
your
And
back.
I'd never experienced racism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, never, I mean, people might kind of ask me stuff out of curiosity or anything like that, but I'd largely been accepted,
Mhm.
as like part of the community. So, and all of a sudden, like, go back to your country, and or
Yeah.
things like that, was kind of so scary. And so even today, what's happening in this country, and like my husband was saying that in Canada they have flags in the grocery store of produce that is Canadian and what's American, and people are not buying American goods. And that's kind of, it's heartbreaking for me to even think that.
Well, it's heartbreaking because I think what we're doing all across the world is we're relying on news stories to give us the facts. We're relying on small little clips of
Yeah,
this or that. We're not having those dinner table conversations
yeah,
anymore where people have different viewpoints and different backgrounds, and we talk about the differences and realize that other people may have different values than we do, but they're
yeah,
coming from just as valuable of a place that we are,
yeah.
and being curious. I
Yes.
think we've lost a lot of curiosity, and I was a very curious child. So
Hmm.
curiosity is something that I love. Like I love to learn about different people and different viewpoints.
It's a huge
Like,
part of who you are as your true
yeah,
nature, right? And
how boring would it be if
how
everyone
boring.
had the exact
Yeah,
same thought?
yeah,
And so that saddens me as well because now I'm not saying everyone hasn't sat down and battled the viewpoints and made it out, but I'm just finding that a lot of people are relying on somebody else
yeah,
to tell them what's going on or tell them the
yeah,
facts, but they're not actually investigating to see and then making a judgment against people that are perfectly good, honest, loving, hardworking people. And it breaks my heart as well because we lose that community.
yeah,
The
yeah,
community between countries, the community within our own community.
yeah.
I have a friend, a Middle Eastern friend, and I remember after 9/11, we had talked about her coming to visit, and she was like, I won't go to the airport.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't go to the airport. She goes, I get stopped, I get searched, and she's American, born American, never lived
Uh-huh.
anywhere else. Doesn't even have an accent, like
Uh-huh.
American, just like your son, a coconut. And she would get stopped every time because of her name.
Yeah.
So she would get flagged, and that's heartbreaking. But I mean, I guess it comes down to in our world, we're losing human to human
Connections.
interaction and
Yeah.
connection,
Yeah.
and we're blaming other people, whoever that may be, wherever you stand, it doesn't matter. You're
Yeah.
blaming somebody else for the disconnect. Well, it's because
Absolutely.
so and so did this. That's why we're disconnected. Well, it's because so and so did that. That's why we don't get along. Baloney. It's
Yeah.
because you chose to not be open to
And
somebody else. It's
you
our choice.
choose not to be curious about another person, about their viewpoints. Like on podcasts, people will ask me, "Oh, are there any subjects that you don't want to talk about?" And I almost always say religion and politics because we are really at that point where it's hard to have an honest conversation. If
It is.
I say I belong to this or that, there's going to be ramifications from that, and that
Yeah.
I find so strange because I know, like, I've spent many
Heartbreaking.
summers in other countries like Italy, Spain.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, we would be like fighting over a political view and going literally, at each other. And few hours later, we have a glass of
Yeah.
wine and relaxing and enjoying ourselves. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be made into this thing where you are that party and I am this and I think you're stupid.
Mhm.
All of these things that come up just because you believe in something.
My parents, when I was when I was raised, they said, you don't talk about money or politics or religion with anyone other than people that you know, because nobody that you just met needs to hear about that, right?
Yeah.
You keep it within your circle, and then, but what within your circle, like if we would debate, I mean, within the family, everyone
Yeah.
has a different viewpoint, and you're right. At the end of the night, everyone hugs
Yeah.
each other, off you go,
But
and
that
now
circle has become very small.
very small. It's
Yeah.
become so small. And now it's like you say one thing and you don't even say anything on, say, Facebook, right? And then everyone infers from something you said where you might be. And then there's this whole debate and attack. And this may be a tip for people. I used to kind of like let that irk me because I was like, geez, man, like this person just didn't even say anything. And now I just laugh and I'm like, how sad for the person that has to attack.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if we have this defense, right? If we automatically defend our position to somebody that maybe isn't important to us or it's not even a real conversation, to me, that shows a lot of insecurity.
Yeah.
And we need to be grounded in what we believe and believe that we're
Yeah.
good people
Yeah.
and whatnot. And we have seen a lot of that, and it's causing a lot of stress. And even with you, we're not going to talk a lot about the microbiome today, but I'm going to say, when we have, I'm an adrenal doctor, right? So we get the stress, we get the stimulation through the nervous system. The nervous system impacts the gut. The gut is impacted. The gut has microbiome
Yeah.
changes. The microbiome changes impact the brain. The brain then impacts it, right? It's an ongoing cycle. And when I look at the health in our society and people say, well, why do you think we're so sick? I always say, it's the nervous system.
Yeah.
We're killing each other right now. Like, what if we did an experiment for like 6 months where we came at everyone with love and gratitude and acceptance?
Yeah.
I wonder
how
would
things
we
would
have
be.
all of our health change?
Yeah.
Like India in general has a better health profile than America, doesn't it? Or has it been pretty Americanized now?
Well, I think it is pretty American. It's the Western diet,
Yeah.
almost every big country, like has that, But I think certain countries like India, Mexico, they have this whole community, it's such a big part of family,
Mhm.
but here we're just so fragmented. We live here, we have a nuclear system that we don't have that extended family as much, so that also is a problem, because we
Yeah.
need that. We need people around you, we need connections, and sometimes it should be the connections have to be deep. Sure, there are other kinds of connections, but those deep connections, familial connections are important as well. It gives you the faith and confidence that someone around you loves you and understands you.
Mhm.
And it's very sad but I feel like anything else, it's like we'll get past this too.
Oh,
That is
100%.
I think of America as this very resilient country, and we've gone through so much. This
Mhm.
is just another thing we're going to go through, and we'll get to the other side and we'll be okay. And that's what I tell my friends in Australia or other
Mhm.
countries, I say, I feel so sorry for you. I said, don't feel sorry for us. We'll be okay. And it doesn't
Oh,
come from this sense of like arrogance or anything like
no.
that, because it's just knowing that this is also going to pass. That's just the nature of things, things will pass. And we're always looking at either the past or the future. If we're just present to this moment, I think our nervous system will be much happier.
Well, I was reading, oh my gosh, why is the name escaping me? Think and Grow Rich. I read books all the time, just kind of little parts. And I was reading the section the other night about faith and how you can't grow if you don't have faith. Like you don't have faith that it's going to be okay, that this is happening for a reason. And I think this applies to people's lives in general. We have all these things that fall on top of us, death of parents, caring for parents, stresses of work, pressure, financial issues, whatever it may be. It doesn't even matter. And we get so caught up, like you're saying, in some of the past experiences or worrying about the future
Yeah,
rather than having faith in the future or looking at it as we know that we can get through this.
yeah,
There's always a worse situation than you're in.
yeah,
And I think a lot of times we forget that.
yeah,
We go, well, it's really bad right now. Well, yeah, but it honestly could be worse because, the way I look at it after losing my family, I mean, my family is all above me. Um, I look at it and I say, but I woke up today.
yeah,
Like it could be worse. Like I could have not woken up, or I could have woken up and maybe had a stroke and not be able to walk, or not be able to feed myself, or
yeah,
not be able to go to the bathroom, or
yeah.
dance, or
Yeah, that
feel like
gratitude
I
for
could
all the
communicate.
little things, like my husband says every morning when he wakes up, he does a little prayer to Mother Earth and says, "Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to put my feet on the ground, on you." And you would think that that's small, but it's actually not. How many people don't get up in the morning? How many people pass during the night? Just to be on this earth and to enjoy every aspect of it is just you're filled with gratitude, right? And
Tons of it.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like I think Trisha, maybe you have this too, but I have a lot of clients who go through anxiety, thinking about the future, not knowing quite how to deal with obstacles in their path. And I always tell them, if you have obstacles in your path, think of the obstacle as the path. Think of
Yeah.
that as the way. It's not in the way, it is the way.
It's telling you where to
Yeah.
go. It's saying it's
It's
time to grow now. You're done
yeah.
with this path. We're going to give you a
Yeah.
choice. You
And
can take
that's what
this
path,
path or you can take this
take
path.
this part. Yeah. Like, for example, I mean, you and I are in the same mastermind, right?
Mhm.
I see so many people who have all this email lists and way up there as far as where they are in their journey. I mean, it's very easy for me to feel like, oh my gosh, look at me. I mean, I'm stuck here. I don't have that email list. Or But instead, I choose to make that my path. I say, okay, if this is what's coming in the way of me getting to that wherever I want to go, why not make this the path? Why not enjoy getting there? Enjoy the journey of getting there. And that kind of reshifting really helps us
Hmm.
enjoy the journey, enjoy the people you meet along the way. It's incredible how the world has just sent me people
Hmm.
that are supposed to be in my life right now. And it
Hmm.
may not be that I have that email list yet or whatever, but I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying the people who have come my way and say, hey, Anu, do this, do that. And enjoying each person along the way. And that becomes, I think, more important than the result. And because we're always chasing where we want to go and the end result, we we forget to be present to what life offers us.
And we choose what we think the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't happen, we're
Oh
disappointed.
yeah, we think
And
that.
and
Yeah.
that's what gets me is, we have to detach ourselves from the outcome. We have to say, okay, I'm going to be in the moment. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to do things that fill my soul. And this is kind of the direction I see myself going. I see myself going down this path of having this big email list, but it might not actually be the outcome that happens. There
Yeah.
might be a detour that gives you a different opportunity. And we get so focused. And I wonder about this when it comes to drive. People that, I mean, you were raised to be driven. I don't know if you were innately driven. You were more probably innately free, right? You
No, if
wanted
you
to
ask me
explore.
now, I mean,
Yeah.
if I didn't have any responsibilities, you would really see me just being so lazy, doing nothing. I would love that, just doing nothing. But there's always this voice that says, I know you've got to really achieve something. And this non attachment that is part of my spiritual journey has
Yep.
really taught me to understand that I can just be me.
Be
I
you.
don't have to be anything else but me. So,
Yeah, and your path will find you. And you,
yeah,
like I said, you kind of like, oh, I see 3 or 4 paths I could take. Let's take a walk
yeah,
down this one. Oops, wrong one.
yeah,
Okay, we'll go this way. Do. I mean, you can kind of weave your way out.
yeah,
And I always look at it as a story. It's a really boring story if everything goes as predicted.
yeah.
If you open up in the book and you say, in the end of this, the person is going to live happily ever after, well, then you don't really want to hear the story
And you
anymore,
don't
right?
want anyone else's journey, right?
Yeah.
We see the end result. We see someone who is highly successful or just really famous, but you
Mhm.
don't know the path that they walk to get there. And do you really want that? You're probably happy with your path. You just want the end result that that person has. You
Mhm.
can't have it both ways. I mean, I would rather walk my own path, have my own understanding of life, and be happy with that. So,
The show's been great for that because I think, I brought on such a variety of people and still plan to bring on very different people in different industries. And, I think that was one of the points is I was like, these people look so successful. Everyone says they're so successful, and they are. But there's a point where they let go.
yeah,
And that's when it took off, right? And when you're on the outside and you're trying to make it and you're fighting, I think, at least in this country, we fight for everything. We're going
yeah,
to fight to get there. We're going to fight cancer. We're going to fight this or that. We're going to beat it up. And it's like, okay, but what if you trusted?
yeah,
Um, and I do think that's just a difference in mentality. And
yeah.
perhaps I know I love Ayurvedic medicine for that reason. You know, it's a different thing. It's a lot more
It's a
trusting in
lifestyle. Yeah,
working with the
yeah,
body and giving the foods it needs at the right seasons based on when it needs to be given, and really learning to listen to your body and and be well with your own body, your unique individual body. And we don't have that tendency here
yeah,
in America. We have a totally different,
yeah,
how little can we do to be healthy?
yeah.
How few pills can we take to be healthy?
It's the
What's the
instant
one diet
gratification.
cleanse we can do to
Yeah,
be skinny? And yeah, and I mean, and I see that in a weight culture, the weight culture we're in right now, and it's frustrating for me. I get very worked up about it just because of my history of everyone always wanting to be 20 pounds lighter. You need to be 20 pounds lighter. You need to be 10 pounds lighter. You need to be a size 0. And when I finally let that go, Now it aggravates me at times, if I'm honest,
I
because I'm
mean,
like, why
it's
are you trying to
hard.
lose 10 pounds? There's so much beauty in you,
Yeah.
but it's just something I think we have to learn to
Yeah.
overcome. And by talking about it and talking about all these different things.
And there's a lot to talk about, especially now with all of these drugs available. And again, there's no, there are people who can afford it, people who cannot.
Right.
Uh, the side effects from it, all of these things. So there's so many things that are coming up around weight loss, and I kind of think that it needs to be about nutrition, about feeding your body, and really knowing that you're an individual. Don't compare yourself to anyone else.
Mhm.
And a lot of the stuff that I do is I have cohorts that are very, uh, um, that are typical about the cuisines that you like or a community that you belong to.
Mhm.
Because you can't really compare a Caucasian with an Asian body or an Asian body with an African American body. We have
Or a
enough
6 foot tall
pressure.
body with a 5 foot
Five
tall
foot
body,
tall body, yeah. And
you know?
it all depends on, your own genetics and how
Mhm.
your body frame and so many things. And what you grew up enjoying. Like I was talking to Dennis Wong the other day.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
interviewing Dennis Wong. One of
yeah,
my favorites.
yeah.
Love him. Shout out. If you're listening to the show and you haven't listened to the one with Dennis Wong, you got to
He's,
listen to the one
yeah.
with Dennis Wong.
So we were talking about culturally, I don't know, the cultural
Yes.
cuisines. That is what I think that's what he called it. And he said, you need to go back to your culture. That's what he believes,
Mhm.
that, you go back to, and and that's sort of what I believe too, because from a microbial standpoint, it really helps
Mhm.
to grow the right kind of microbes. And, because every culture has its own foods that are really beneficial for your microbiome. So we were talking about
Well,
that, and
well,
yeah.
I'd be curious to ask you then because I'm American. So I'm not going back to hamburgers and
You
fries
know,
and chicken wings. So,
you have your pick, Trisha. I mean, being American, if first of all you ask yourself, what does that mean? What kind of cuisine is something that I like? Because we all have like, even though I'm Indian,
you know what my favorite
yeah,
cuisine is?
yeah,
Hands down, I would eat it every day if I could. Southern Indian.
like Indian, like,
Yeah, like dosas,
oh, really?
Magnum Bartha, one of my favorites. I love dosas. I
Yeah,
love Uttapam.
yeah,
I love gobi Manchurian. I could eat Indian food. The ones without dairy. So
yeah.
that's why I say Southern Indian
So
because it's
Southern Indian
less
is
dairy.
very healthy.
Yeah.
I'm from the South, and like for example, dosa is very high in lactobacillus. It's
Mhm.
fermented food.
Yes.
Idli is fermented. You could
Yep.
get a lot of, like, I love Mexican food, and I always find things that are good for my microbiome, like something that's high in fiber. So
Yeah.
sopa de frijoles, things like that that really benefit. Um, I don't know how we started talking about food, but that's
I
great.
love food. Well, and it's funny because I'm American. So
Yeah.
why would that be the food that my body loves? And I think the
Yeah,
fermented part of it is very much part of it,
yeah,
and that it's it's vegetable,
yeah,
right? And the spices, the Ayurvedic type spices, my body loves cinnamon, it loves cardamom, it loves
yeah.
um, coriander, it loves cumin.
Cloves and
So
yeah,
yeah, my body just loves those warming,
spice. I think you look like
spices.
you're probably a vata, right? With a
Yes,
little bit of
absolutely.
pitta, yeah. So yeah,
Absolutely. The little
that
vata fire in
air,
me.
yeah,
Just
the
a little.
pitta, yeah.
Just
I'm the same. I'm
a
vata
little
pitta.
a little spit of it. But I'm 50% English, 25% Norwegian, and 25% Swedish. No idea what I would eat culturally
Yeah,
because I've never been there. So, but it's an interesting thought. That's how we came onto it, was talking about Dennis Wong about that. But I laugh because I eat basically Thai food, Indian food,
yeah.
and yeah, Chinese in
So I
some way. Like
think it's
those are my
not
main,
about what
that's
you
my main diet.
But that's why I feel like it's not just about the cuisine that you're raised on, but it's more
Yeah.
the cuisine has that beckons you.
Yeah.
That becomes more important for me. I mean, even though I do love Indian food, but I also like other things. I love Italian. And so you're always trying to find healthy things in
Mhm.
each cuisine, not the standard American diet.
What's your favorite cuisine?
I would say, after like 2 or 3 weeks of traveling, it would be Indian, definitely.
Mhm.
But if I would say Italian. And
Yeah.
not because of pasta, but really Italian food is way more than that. I would love the
Yes.
soups and the
Yeah.
cannellini beans and the uh, rocket salads, and there's Mediterranean and Middle
Mediterranean.
Eastern and Israeli food is something that I love too. So, yeah, yeah,
Oh, yes. Oh,
yeah,
yeah. I know. I'm definitely a foodie, even though I don't look like one.
yeah. Well, you're coming to San Diego, you should come and have those with me.
I would love it. My husband's from San Diego, so
Oh,
we
okay.
try to get there fairly
Hmm.
regularly. And I usually come in the summer, and I go to Coronado because I love Coronado Island. So I'm usually in Coronado at least once a year. So I will let you know. Sure.
Okay.
For sure. We've talked, it's been interesting. I didn't know exactly where our conversation was going to go. And I love, for me, being a curious person, I do love the idea of cultures merging into new cultures and figuring out how to adapt and how to build a community when you're kind of thrown into a community that's maybe unforeign to you. Because you're right, I do believe it builds a lot of resilience. I think it takes someone with a lot of cojones to be able to do that, to leave their comfort zone, not knowing what's going to happen, on a dream, on a thought, and throw themselves into a new environment and really overcome that. So as we wrap up, I guess I'd love for you to speak to that a little bit, to give the people out there that maybe are afraid to take that leap, that are afraid to take that risk, that are afraid of being judged. And this doesn't even have to be moving to a different country. It's just the idea that we try something new, and what are people going to think of us?
Yeah.
What are people going to say about us? It could be switching a job. It could be marrying someone that maybe your family doesn't like. It could be packing up away from your family and moving states away because you want to, a dream that you have that someone's afraid to take in fear of judgment.
Yeah.
I would love to have you speak to that a little bit and how you have come through that in all these years and raised your family to be resilient to that as
Yeah.
well. Would you be willing to speak to that for a
Oh,
minute?
yeah, sure. I mean, when I think about that, I feel like, as a young mom and seeing my kids grow up, I think I realized very early on that I didn't want to be ethnocentric. That was important to me. If I had made a decision to move to a different country, I wanted to adapt and accept and take things from different communities and embrace different things, and that's how I raised my kids. They never grew up saying, oh, I am this or that. We
Mhm.
celebrated Hanukkah, we celebrated Christmas, we did everything. And that was really important to me because I believed in that melting pot. I believe that this is a place where there's so many different cultures.
Mhm.
With that really comes this ambiguity, like, oh, I mean, what am I? Am I Indian? Am I American? I mean, your kids will go through that too. And the kind of same kind of questions happen when you switch careers or you do something different because there's a part of you that's rooted into I am a doctor, I am this, I am that. And then there's a part of you that wants to just evolve and change. There's a fear factor. And for me, what really, really helped, like I was a teacher and changing to the health field, I think what really helped me more than anything, Tricia, is my spiritual path. And
Mhm.
my spiritual path is non-duality. And in non-duality, we believe that there's the outer self, the
Mhm.
small self, and there's a true inner self. Your true inner self is who you really truly are. And in my examination of that and belief that this is the real me, not the little parts of me that show
Mhm.
up for whatever reason, I was able to let go of the attachment. Am I going to be a good practitioner in health, or am I going to be as good as I was in my None of that mattered. It was just a journey towards the next path, whatever my life was leading me to. And from that, there stems a certain amount of confidence in believing what your true nature is. And my true nature is that, always being open to
Mhm.
what the universe is calling out for me to do. So, and
And and it's not, how it doesn't hurt to be open. So many people are afraid to
yeah,
be open, but like what could possibly go wrong if you're open to every opportunity
yeah.
and every path? I think it's beautiful and it's a great lesson to wrap up the show with. Absolutely beautiful. And before we go, though, I want people to know where to find you because you do have a wealth of information on the microbiome. You have a wealth of information on, just as you're saying, following your path, learning how to roll with the punches, listening to your body. So, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me on Instagram, Nine Arms of Wellness. That is a philosophy that I believe in. Ninearmsofwellness.com is my website, and my book is out next month, and that's called Flourish from Within.
I can't wait to see your book.
Thank you.
I know writing a book myself, I know how difficult it
Yeah.
is and how much love and time and sweat
I feel
you put into
so pregnant right now. I feel like
it.
I'm ready to just
I
get the baby out, you know.
I know I forget about my book because it came out so long ago, but and it's almost like I needed to for a little while because I felt like all I was book, 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 and I had to
Mm.
find some other reason or some other reason for living once I finished writing it. I was like, oh, there's something. But congratulations
Thank
on that.
you.
I'm really
Thank you.
excited to see
Thank
that
you.
come out, and I hope that everyone checks you out and follows you and learns more,
Thank
not
you.
only about what you do as a practitioner, but just who you are as a human.
Thank you,
You're a
Tricia.
beautiful human, and I'm so grateful for you to take time out of your day to be here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tricia.